We will be talking this evening about the memorial services that were carried on throughout the United States and all around the world. But there is also hard news to report, and that is how we will begin. With Nightline correspondent Chris Bury.
Ted, on this day, as you mentioned, dedicated to reflection and remembrance, other developments continue to keep pouring over the transom fast and furious. The first arrest has been made in Tuesday's attacks. He is a suspected material witness detained in New York. The FBI is searching for 100 people it wants to question. President Bush has returned from his visit to New York. Tomorrow at Camp David, where he's spending the night, he meets with his national security team to plan the U.S. response. Secretary of State Powell dispatched American ambassadors to build an anti-terrorism coalition. He warned Afghanistan and other nations to cooperate or face the consequences. But tonight, the ruling Taliban threatened to attack nations that would help the United States. 35,000 military reservists have now been called to active duty. The House and Senate Friday night approved resolutions authorizing the president to use necessary and appropriate force. Congress has also approved $40 billion for recovery and anti-terrorism efforts. Air traffic is now moving, but just barely still. Flights at all three New York metro airports remain scaled back. Security scares caused delays in Chicago and Los Angeles, and the new safeguards have led to long lines at those few major airports open for business. Rescue workers have all but given up hope of finding any more survivors at the World Trade Center, but flight data and flight voice recorders have now been recovered in Pennsylvania and the Pentagon. The death toll from Tuesday's terrorist attack is expected to exceed 5,000. The World Trade, I'm sorry, Ted, that's your line about the World Trade Center. But
it has been a very long day. Let me, if I may, just read you something, Chris, and maybe you have a reaction to it, maybe you don't. This is a Reuters story out of Islamabad, Pakistan. Afghanistan's ruling Taliban said on Saturday they might attack any neighbor which gave assistance to U.S. strikes on their country. If a neighboring country allows its soil or, significantly, its air to be used in an attack against Afghanistan, in that case, the possibility cannot be ruled out that we attack that country. I'm not so sure that the threat is what we should be focusing on, Chris, but the fact of the matter is they clearly expect that there is going to be some sort of a U.S. attack, don't you think?
They certainly anticipate an attack, and what I think it does point up, Ted, is some of the problems the president may have in building the coalition. The statement you just read from the Taliban, although they didn't mention the country by name, was clearly aimed at Pakistan, because earlier this evening, the Pakistani cabinet, or its version of a cabinet, was considering whether to give the United States permission to use its airspace. A representative from the Pakistani government told us here at Nightline tonight that they haven't made a final decision. But Secretary of State Powell did say earlier that he was encouraged by the Pakistani response. But now here you have Pakistan, which, as you know, has been such a great benefactor to the Taliban in potential direct conflict with Afghanistan. So this is the kind of coalition building problem that I think we're probably going to see play out over the next few days.
All right. I must confess, I have no idea at the moment, Chris, where it is that our colleagues would like us to go, so maybe if someone would whisper that in my ear.